Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Ragnarok Season 1, Episode 1. It's called New Boy, and this is a new Netflix show. So because it's the first episode, we will start spoiler-free. We'll give you a warning before we jump out of the spoilers. This is a Norwegian original from Netflix, which is cool. I don't think we've done a... No, was that The Rain? Was that Norwegian? It might have been. If it wasn't Norway, it was Scandinavia. It was somewhere in Scandinavia, definitely.
For some reason, I want to say Denmark, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, you may be right. But so this is a new Norwegian original, and is about a teenage boy who, with his brother and mother, moved back to his mother's hometown, and he may have powers. It's a hard way to actually describe it.
He may or may not be a Norse god.
There's some mystery elements to it, and there's some villainous mystery elements to it that we'll get into more in spoilers, but it's definitely kind of like there's something going on here. We're not really sure what. It's a 6-episode season, so not a long investment. The episodes are all in the sort of mid 40-minute range, I think, from my quick glance. And yeah, so I will say this: it started off on a good note because it started with some M83 music, which is a good way to put me in the mood.
Ends on it too.
It ends on it too, yes. In fact, I started laughing because the song it ends with is the same song that ended the Mr. Robot finale, of all things. But it's a great track, so I don't really blame anyone for using it.
No, and it's not like the only things that have used it either. It's kind of a dumb thing. No,
I first heard it. I discovered M83 because that very track was used in a Red Bull advert in like 2014. That's how I discovered M83. I like that. I want to look that up, and it led to the album. And
I'm assuming this was a Red Bull advert in the cinema, not on TV, because there was no way you were watching broadcast TV still in 2014.
No, it was it was a cinema. Of course it was. In fact, it was on a game. It was Kerbal Space Program 2's trailer at E3 last year as well. Stuck out to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I only remember that because of a hubbub that was made in a podcast about it. It wasn't because it was that memorable a trailer on its own. It was someone was trying to describe the track, and they didn't know the name of it, so they just described it as the Now and Forever song, because at one point he says, "Now and forever," and I realised what he was talking about, so I remember it now because of that. So anyway, so M83, good start, gets me in the mood, I'm on board. Another thing this has, I think, right away is, and we said this a lot actually about a couple other shows from this region, I think, is the location's a big asset because the location is beautiful. All the mountains and the lake of this location are gorgeous. Every time it does an aerial shot, it's like,
comes with the territory, I suppose, but lucky them.
Yeah, no, it's just really cinematic, and it's not necessarily something we see in cinema all that much or on TV all that much because it's such a different place. And you could go to the north of Scotland and get a similar kind of visual as well, to be honest. But it's.
Yeah, I know for example, the second season of The Witcher is filming on some of the islands around Scotland to get that kind of vibe. Yeah,
it's kind of, it's just across the sea from this kind of area.
Oh, it's not far at all. That's why there was tons of Vikings.
Exactly. So it's interesting though. You can actually sort of go up to the UK and get more Nordic looking as you go.
Absolutely. It's why we in some mythological circles, which is relevant to this and something that will actually come up in later discussion. Some regions of the UK mythologically share old gods, like pagan gods, with the Norse, even to the names.
Yeah. So I guess I'll ask the question: did you enjoy episode 1 of Ragnarok?
Not as much as I wanted to. There's a lot of things I like.
Interesting answer, yes.
There's a lot of things I like. It's playing with all this mythology, and I thought it was a bit clunky, especially in the dialogue.
There was some clunkiness. I agree. I thought it was okay. There's things I like about it. I like the location, but I actually also kind of like something that came with the location. That's also a stylistic thing. This is going to sound almost like a dig at it, but it's not. I actually mean this as a compliment. Is that the way it's shot reminds me of how TV shows might have been shot in the 90s. It had a different kind of small town vibe that I just don't get from modern shows anymore. The way it was kind of introducing the locales and the characters, in tone, it's nothing. It's nothing like Twin Peaks, but just in the way that Twin Peaks introduced its town and the way you sort of started to get to know the locations of the town made me feel.
Sure.
I was getting that kind of feeling here, and I was kind of digging that part of it. Yeah. I will, and the dialogue is clunky. There's a couple of laughable moments when some more, so we say, supernatural elements come in that we'll get to. But I will say this. Obviously, I won't spoil what it is yet, but there's the final scene of this episode, as M83's outro's playing, there's a moment where a character picks up something, and I said, if something happens in a second, I'm in. That was my response. As soon as someone picked up an object, it says, if this X thing is about to happen, which I am predicting, if it happens, I'm in for this season. I don't care what my complaints were from everything else.
So you're in then?
It wasn't exactly what I was thinking in my head. It was close, though. Okay. It was very close.
I know exactly what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I would not be too surprised if the next episode opens with what you're thinking. Because I know what you're thinking.
I don't know if you got it exactly, but yeah, you're in the ballpark. You're in the ballpark. I went, if this happens, there is one thing it does though really well. Probably the biggest compliment I can give it is that it actually made me care about a couple of characters, so that something that happened in the back half of the episode actually hit with a little bit of a impact, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say there was some frustrating predictability in that event in particular, where I was like, okay, I know kind of where a couple of these things are going, and that bugged me. But I get what you're saying. They tried. They really tried.
I would say it succeeded to a point as well. We'll get into it in details, but I feel like it did a decent job of making me care about a couple of people, so that where it went by the end actually had a little bit of impact, and it didn't just feel like cheap episode 1 nonsense, yeah, like it didn't feel like that. I felt like, oh no, actually it devoted time to this so that I cared. And there is definitely some clunkiness though. There's definitely a couple of weird moments with the dialogue where maybe it's just a cultural thing where I just don't get the humor that's happening.
Yeah, maybe it's the translation.
It could be the translation. There's a couple of moments where the characters seem to be bonding over a thing, and I just don't get what's happening because the dialogue's kind of weird. But that could be the translation, or just a purely cultural thing where we're just not going to get it because it's not, it's just something that's unique to the location.
They're not making this for us necessarily.
No, they're
we
not.
have to be watching it because it's available, but we're not the prime target audience.
Oh, notably, one of the characters has a YouTube channel, and she speaks in English on her YouTube channel. So her YouTube channel is definitely going for that worldwide appeal.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I've seen that a lot though. A lot of YouTubers who from like Spain, for example, will do stuff in English because it has a wider reach in terms of YouTube's appeal.
Absolutely. I've actually seen some channels do both, that they'll have both content in English and their own language. They'll sort of mix and match.
That makes sense. If you can do both, go for it.
Yeah, that does make sense. We only speak English though, so there's no new content coming.
And even that's just about.
Yeah, sketchy at best. So yeah, I think there's some good qualities to this show. I also think there's definitely some clunkiness and definitely some things that feel just kind of like, wait, that feels very random. The way that the I guess the start of the supernatural stuff is introduced in this episode feels just so absurdly random and out of nowhere. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think they're going to like tie it into more, it's kind of always going to go this way because of who the father was, and it's going to like be more baked into the character. But the way it's actually introduced in this episode, where some random old person comes up and speaks to him, and then all of a sudden things start happening, is so weird.
I got it a little bit more on context thanks to something in the subtitles, where the subtitles actually gave me the name of that old man. I don't know if you noticed, it was in like the square brackets at the start.
I was getting that. I was getting that too, but I didn't. I also didn't notice what the name was.
The name actually told me a lot about who this was because it's a mythological name.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense in that context.
It felt so random. It is, yeah. And a series of events sort of way, it felt so random, but honestly, all the supernatural stuff where he's maybe got these little things happening where his eyesight's getting better, because it's kind of that Peter Parker, Spider-Man 1 kind of thing where his eyesight's better without the glasses now, where he seems to be able to bend something that he shouldn't really be able to bend. He's got a bit extra strength. All those little things were coming off as kind of goofy to me, because it kind of felt like we're just doing some superhero tropes almost, of like him realizing he's got something special. What I think the episode actually did well at was mostly him making a new friend, the sort of the actual core drama, I suppose, of like his world, and kind of building up some connections that we kind of care about, so that when things really get introduced later, the actual villainous element though that's introduced, and sort of where we really get to see some of that towards the end of the episode, was making me kind of giggle a little bit, because it's very
goofy and hokey.
It's very hokey. The episode looks very good for the most part. There's some green screen in this section though that looks a little bit iffy, and it stuck out because the rest of it just feels so natural and like, I mean, beautiful.
You can tell a lot of it. They have locations.
Yeah, it felt so beautiful and natural. For the rest of it, I mean, it feels big and grand because it's these locations, but it does feel natural. And then you get to a couple of scenes here where it's very clearly a green screen shot because of what they're doing with the character.
And it suffers because of the contrast.
Yeah,
because the green screen itself isn't terrible. You know, it's not. It's far from the worst I've seen, but because of the contrast, it suffers.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. It's definitely not the worst green screen ever. I've definitely seen worse, much worse. In fact, it's actually pretty solid green screen, but it does. It's not seamless. But
if this was on an American network show,
we'd
be
applaud
saying,
it.
"Oh, this looks really good."
Yeah, but this is the thing, because it's quite good but not seamless. That non-seamless part of it really sticks out because of how good everything else looks.
Yeah.
So that would be my critique of that. I do kind of like how very few people in the show look like big movie star actors. They all look like normal people. And that's something that American shows will almost always not have. But this is like, no, we'll have some regular looking schlubs in this because we don't care about that.
It's something that you go back to, we talked about Twin Peaks earlier.
Yes.
There's a lot of just normal looking people in it.
Yeah, times have changed. Now could you, I can almost imagine like showing this pilot to some CW executives, just watch them like almost like faint from like, but everyone looks so normal. There's no pretty CW people in this. All fainting. Yeah, so we'll give the spoiler warning and we can talk about what actually happens in the episode. Honestly, I think it's worth a try if you're intrigued by the idea of like, because the show opens, just to sort of one final point, I suppose, and spoiler free here, the show opens with a definition of what Ragnarok is. It's essentially, in Norse mythology, it's the apocalypse, and it starts with extreme weather and eventually has like armies of, you know, mythological creatures at war before the end of the world. And obviously then it goes from that to, hey, it says this kid's starting this new school because they've moved towns, and it's like, okay, this is really normal stuff now. Like, but every so often there's some rain or there's some thunder. It's like, oh, we're building up.
And it's rain itself isn't that weird, but it's the point of, it's not supposed to rain today, and he's just like, there's about to be rain, and then all of a sudden there's a downpour. Yeah,
that's his other sort of ability they start to introduce, is that he seems to be predicting weather-related things that are about to happen.
Yeah.
So full spoilers then from this point on for episode 1 of Ragnarok. I will take this time though to thank our Patreon producers for the month, David Shart, Alison M. Forday, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess. Thank you to you guys for being Patreon producers. That means the producers at the $20 tier are up on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, but you can support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble over there. So go and have a look-see and see if you want to help keep all the content coming. But yeah, so full spoilers for episode 1 of Ragnarok.
So can I guess what you thought the final moment was like? If this is the moment.
Okay, so we'll get to what actually happened before and why he's upset. But it's pissing down a rain. M83's outro is playing. That's the name of the track. Is outro, and he's walking up. And earlier on, there was introduced this hammer that his mum was using to like put the fence in or whatever. And it's got like a Norse symbol at the bottom of it. It's a couple of things that his dad had Norse symbols on it. This Norse squiggly line thing.
Yeah, like an S.
Yeah. I would say it's more of an E because it goes, or an M depending on which way you've got it flipped.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
it's like a pointy M or a pointy E depending on which orientation. Anyway, and he goes to pick it up, right? And and if you want to predict what I was saying in my head, if this happens next, I'm in.
Oh, were you going for the transformation?
No, not transformation. I was going to that. I was just saying, if he holds this up and lightning strikes it, I'm in. I'm fucking in.
Fair enough. The moment for me that I was thinking is because he grabs it and he hurls the hammer. I was like, is it going to come back?
Well, yeah, he hadn't thrown it yet, but the actual ending is that he throws it into the sky, and what happens is that after, because it goes further than it should, right? It goes like superhuman strength levels of it into the sky. Yeah. And once it goes out of the sky, though, into the rainy sky, the clouds, like lightning, just starts like going off like mad in the sky. Yeah. As if he's triggered it. So it's not exactly what I thought was going to happen, but it's kind of in the ballpark.
this son of a bitch is Thor.
Well, that's what it's kind of implying.
Well, rewind. The old man on the electric scooter that gives him the powers or activates him.
Well, yeah, because it shows that he's a nice person because he gets out of the car to help this little old man on a scooter who's sort of broken down in the middle of the road.
Yeah, so the name in the subtitles is Wotan, which I'm saying that and it clearly means nothing to you.
No.
But that is another name for Odin.
Ah, okay.
And if you noticed, he was wearing an eye patch.
That's true, he was, yes.
So I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here, like immediately.
I had no idea Odin was a member of the Wotan clan, but
that was bloody terrible.
That was a brilliant joke. You know it was.
that was one of your worst.
That was a brilliant joke. So he goes to school and he's kind of awkward. They mention that he's got dyslexia, which comes up a few times, where he can't read stuff. He uses voice to text to help to type things and all that, or voice to speech. You know what I mean? Speech to text.
Voice to text was right. You were right the first time.
I get confused. I'm not dyslexic except when it comes to describing what voice to text is. And then I get dyslexic.
Except apparently when you nail it the first time and then really question it.
That's the only time I get confused. But
oh, really? The only time?
Shut up. So, he's kind of the awkward kid, but he sits next to the sort of the girl that everyone else kind of thinks a weirdo. So his name is Magna, right? If I remember myself, yeah, Magna.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And the girl he sits next to is Isolde, who's kind of, she's got the nose ring, she's got the coloured hair, so she's kind of the rebel, sort of punky one. And we find out she's also kind of like, she's the advocate, she's
the climate activist.
Yeah, she's constantly talking about plastics and, how much, because basically after he hangs out with her for dinner for one night, he comes back and his mum's made tacos for Taco Tuesday, and he sits down and goes, the carbon dioxide emissions from cows is like 12 times that of chicken, and he's like trying to criticise them what they're having for dinner, but it's Taco Tuesday.
Shut up and eat your tacos.
But it's Taco Tuesday. Also, his brother's a complete dick. Like, I thought the first little prank he plays on him was innocent enough, where he wants him to help write something for a proposal because he's got kind of a crush on this other blonde girl that's in the class, and they're paired together for this project, and they're to come up with some sort of some sort of social issue that they're going to make a project out of.
To do with democracy.
Yeah. And he wants his brother to help him write it, and his brother gives him it out. He clearly, obviously, when he can't read it, really, he's dyslexic. But he sits down with her, and she's like, "Did you write this?" He's like, "Well, yeah." And he admits that, well, my brother maybe,
touched it up a little bit.
Touched it up a bit for me, and she reads it, and it's just, he's just written completely the wrong thing to make him look like an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pretty sure the brother's Loki.
That's true. That's a good point.
I mean, just to give this some context here.
That's a good point. I never thought of that. I never thought that the brother's probably Loki. but that was kind of innocent enough, because it was like, okay, it's clear that someone else is playing a prank on him. She immediately gets, okay, this is your brother who's done this. And he does it himself later. He uses the voice to text to do it himself, and it's like a pretty good job, and she seems receptive of it and blah blah. But later on, so he's made this friend Isolde, and she invites him over for dinner that one night, and her dad's one of the teachers.
Yeah, this is where he has a really weird interaction. He's just like, "What are you doing here?" He's just like, "I live here."
And now when he explains, "Oh, I'm Isolde's father," he's like, "Oh, should I go?" Like, why does this change that you're invited for dinner? what?
I don't know.
Oh, that's weird. But so they have dinner, and she invites them. Hey, I'm going up to the mountains. At the weekend, I'm going to paraglide down. I can strap you to me. We can go as a pair, if that's okay. Because they mention as well that he doesn't really do any sports. His mum doesn't let him because of his difficulties. But later on when they're hiking, she's out of breath, and he's like, you're fine. So it's really.
Really bad footwear for it as well.
Yeah, so they're really playing up that he's in peak physical, superhuman sort of levels of condition now. But he still looks like a schlub, which I love. I love that he looks like such a normal nerdy dude.
Yeah, he's just a big dude. So we're wrong. He's tall.
He's tall. He's got a bit of weight on him, but he's not like I don't look at him and feel intimidated. Like if I'm standing next to him in a room, I'm not intimidated by him being too attractive, right? Like I feel like I can.
No, he's the big dumb hero.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean that in a nice way.
Hollywood doesn't have the balls to have a mundane looking Thor, right? Hollywood doesn't have the balls to cast this dude in Avengers, all right? They have to go with the hunky Australian. This show's got the testicles to do this.
And the lack of budget.
And the lack of budgeted as well, yes. To be fair, it looks mostly pretty good, apart from the green screen stuff.
But they're not paying for Hemsworth, are they?
Comparing this to what we looked at last week, October Faction, this looks much better across the board.
This is, like, we've played it as a bit clunky, especially all the climate change stuff is very clunky and like, okay, we get it. Like, it's like every line of dialogue is just really on the nose. Stuff like that. But this is still a million times better than October Faction.
Yeah. I still think it did some nice things with it, though. Like, there was a moment, because they all kind of make fun of her for being this activist, and at one point in the lunch hall, not the first time he's there for lunch, but the second time Magda's there and he's eating his sandwich, because he comes in with a big stack of sandwiches. He's like a greedy bastard.
Big stack of sandwiches, like a tub of Pringles.
Yeah. But honestly, I think his eating habits on their own are a hurt to the climate. never mind people at large. But someone drops a bottle, and the sort of good looking bully dude is like, "Oh no, the plastic!" and they're all making fun of her, and she gives him the middle finger. And Magnus kind of like laughs at this, and I thought this moment played quite well. It's just like, okay, he's getting to know her, and like we're getting a sense of who all these people are without them being over the top and evil to each other. It's like, this is like a sort of normal thing for, because I feel like sometimes high school kids, I feel like in shows though, high school kids sometimes in movies and that, like what they actually do to each other is actually absurdly evil, which is worse than what you actually see in real life in high school. They're like these like,
kids are terrible, but usually to a point.
Yeah, kids are terrible within reason. Like, they're not, I mean, sure, there's the odd extreme example of a kid, but usually that'll be dealt with. Like, but in movies and TV shows, they are like absurdly evil to each other.
Generally speaking, their perception of within reason is further than an adult's, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But it's not like, to other kids in that, like, in that high school, room, wherever they are, where they're doing this, there's a point where everyone in the room's like, yeah, this is still within reason, it's fine.
Yeah. Because one of the things that movies and TV shows will do a lot is that someone will go too far and like everyone will join in, and I'm like, nah. In high school, if someone said something that extreme, I guarantee you other people would have come to the defense of the other person. I guarantee you someone would have stepped in
after a point. Absolutely.
Yeah, after a point, people would have been mature enough to say, no, you're being a dick, stop it.
Yeah. Whereas this here is like, because it's not really hurting anyone.
No, this is more believable. This is all. It's a believable level of dickishness. It
really is.
So I thought that played quite well in that sense.
When I said there was a lot of clunky stuff with the climate change, not all of it, obviously. There are some beats that are really good, and then there's the funny one with like with the tacos.
Yeah,
but there's definitely just like after dinner with Isolde and the father, and she immediately just starts spouting into facts about the glacier.
Yeah, she goes a bit far. I like the taco one. I loved it the moment, but it's Taco Tuesday.
She doesn't understand.
she just wants to have her Taco Tuesday. Damn it. So anyway, so she invites him up to the mountain, and the second thing the brother does is he sends him a text saying something's wrong with Mum. You have to come and help me. And he comes round, so he leaves her up there to go.
And also, his phone then immediately dies. What sort of dick doesn't charge their phone before going on a hike up a mountain?
Yeah, that's just weird. That's just negligence of the highest order.
That was honestly one of my biggest, little critiques of this episode is I hate when they have to find an excuse to get rid of the phone. And this is one of them where you've been gone like an hour.
Do you know what's funny? In the decade or whatever that I've, had a phone that I've cared about having it, or whatever it's been, I have only accidentally forgotten not to fully charge it once in that time. For one day. That is the only time I have done it in like over a decade. Once.
I've done it a couple of times. But I mean, yeah, few and far between. Now I just carry a portable charger around in my bag anyway, so that if it does run low, or if I do forget whatever reason, I'll just charge it there and then.
Yeah. But anyway. So he runs back down, and it's just a prank. There's nothing wrong. The brother smiles at him.
She's just got new curtains, and she's excited, and he's like, well, she was freaking out about them an hour ago.
Yeah, and I will say the moment I actually liked here, that I thought was handled quite well, is the visual of the accident that happens in front of him. The actual the paragliding down and hitting the electric wires. I actually thought that looked quite good.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
I thought that looked quite good, and I think I wasn't expecting her to die. I felt they gave her enough time in this episode that she felt like a main character. So they kind of pulled a Jessie on me from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Do you know what is really annoying? As soon as this Oh, God damn it! I know exactly what you're gonna like in this too. I was like, God damn it, you dick.
And there's a good bit of mystery. So they made us like her, I think, successfully. So it matters that she's dead. It actually has a bit of impact. And two, it does add to the mystery because you get the impression that this has happened to her because she saw something she wasn't supposed to. Because the last thing we saw of her was she goes into the cave and she sees this door that says restricted access. And we know that the evil dude, the father of the two good-looking students that everyone's attracted to, including her, because one of the things we find out about her is that she's attracted, because she was making fun of him for, like, you know, because he says that this girl, you know, what was her name, Sax, is pretty, and later on we find out that she's actually attracted to her as well, so that's how we find out that she's gay, and that kind of comes into it. But, you know, it does a good job of making us like her, sort of revealing more about her as the episode goes on, so that she feels more fully formed as it goes on. So her death actually has a bit of an impact, which is actually probably the most impressive thing I think this episode does, is that it doesn't just feel like a cheap episode 1 death. It feels like, no, you made me care a little bit. And it feels like a good motivation. This was the one new friend he made, and he was getting close with her, and it never felt like, you know, she has like one line when she invites him for dinner. It's like, hey, I'm not hitting on you. I'm just, you know, asking you over at dinner. It never felt like it was like a romance or like it was a love interest. It always felt like this is a new friend he's making.
Absolutely. And then it kind of clarified that as it went on.
Yeah.
We got that, you know, the reveal of, you know, it was in the notebook that she was, you know, they'd drawn all the pictures and stuff and you know, the usual teenage stuff.
This is why you never write down your secrets, because they can be found.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea.
I've never done it in my life. Nonsense.
What's wrong with teenagers? I mean, where do you want to start? Is the answer to that? But
yeah, but I thought the actual moment looked quite good. What didn't look good, of course, was the evil dude, the dad, this guy who also knows their mum, knows Magda's mum.
Yeah, and they may or may not be some sort of ageless immortals. Because there's some lines in the bathroom with the brother and the sister being like, she's like, oh, well, you're meant to look like you're 19. You're fine.
Well,
like
yeah,
he's really much older.
That scene was very interesting because it was the first time. There was like a one weird moment with the dad when he runs into Magda's mom, and they're kind of awkward because he's seen her for the first time since they left. Because, you know, their dad died when they were, you know, get little, and that's why they left this town, and now they're back. And so that was kind of weird, but the big scene that really implies something is different about this family, and that they're not really a family at all in the traditional sense, is that the brother and sister are in the bathroom, and he's, like, you know, doing his hair and he's topless, which is not that weird, but she's sitting there, and she's got like a bathrobe on, but it's kind of half open. She doesn't really care that she's, like, you know, showing like a lot of like sort of lingerie or whatever, you know, underneath it. So that's kind of weird, and then the dad just walks in.
You're still like at the point of, well, I mean, sure, okay.
And then the dad walks in, and as he's sort of berating them for whatever and saying, you know, keep an eye on that new student because he wants to. This is after he knows that they're back in town. He's like, keep an eye on that new kid, you know, watch him closely. He goes over to the toilet and starts peeing with both his teenage kids in the room without caring that they're there. And it's like, okay, this isn't actually a family. They're all familiar with each other, sure, but they don't care about any of this shit. You know.
Like I say, they're talking about like pretending to be like 19, and I'm like, how old are these bastards? And I'm gonna hate to say this, but it felt like the family in Twilight, right? You know, pretending to like, oh, we'll get through high school, and that's like the feeling that I got from these here was that kind of ageless pretending. Oh,
I've never watched Twilight. I've never actually seen Twilight. So
you've never actually seen it?
No, I'm sure me and Tim will do it for a bonus streams at some point.
Oh, I hope you do.
But we've never actually watched it.
Oh god, that is an episode I will watch. Oh, please do it. please do it for February's Valentine's episode.
No, we're all booked up for February, but
oh, damn it.
Maybe we'll do it.
Speak to Tim. Tim will move some things around.
Tim's not got control over the schedule, all right? Tim's not in charge of the operation. Thank you very much.
Tim will do it.
Maybe no. I think that's something that's more of a goal on Patreon. Like, if we hit a certain goal, we'll do the entire franchise in a month. That's the goal.
You heard him, folks.
That's the goal. I didn't say what the amount would be yet. I get to decide that.
The next goal, 250.
No, 250's got a thing. It's been locked in for a while.
You can have a double.
You can. So, anyway. So the dad, though, he goes out to like the mountains, and he strips down naked, and this is where the green screen comes in because they obviously didn't want to shoot him really outside in the mountains, but naked.
And it was a little weird as well because at this time, Magnus running down the mountain to see his mom, and I'm like, are they gonna?
I'll be running down the mountain when she comes. I'll be running down the mountain when she comes. Sorry.
You done?
You had to say it like that, didn't you? You had to say he's running down the mountain.
Well, it was running down the mountain. It was a perfectly adequate description of what was occurring on the screen. But the point was the intercutting back and forth, and I kept feeling like it was going to, meet up, and then it just doesn't. It's actually very, very separate, and we just get the evil dad being crazy naked hunting weird.
It was when his eyes glowed. I thought this is a bit goofy looking, and then he does this superhuman jump onto a deer. I was a bit in the goofy side, so I hope they keep his doing supernatural shit to a minimum, because this is the thing. All the lightning stuff and the weather stuff looked great with Magna. Like, all that stuff looked good.
Yeah.
So I'm down for more Thor shenanigans.
We need to make Matt watch this show.
Do you know what's so funny watching this is that there were, like, early on, okay, I like the opening music, I like some of the shots, and then it's like some stuff felt a bit weird, and I was like, okay, this kind of feels like it's going to be okay, but not something I'm into. But then every so often it would do something to kind of impress me. Every time I thought maybe it was just starting to dip into just mediocrity, it would do something to impress me. And then it would start to dip again, it would do something to impress me. And then I think making me care about the character who died was the really impressive thing. And then the ending was like, oh, if lightning strikes that hammer, I'm in. I'm in. If lightning strikes that hammer, I'm in.
I want the second episode to open with the hammer returning so badly. I need that as my opening shot.
But that's not actually Mjolnir though, right?
Or is it?
I mean, yeah, it was the one that the dad left behind, so I suppose it could be.
Yeah, and they make a point in the school of telling us this town was, the last place that the Norse gods were worshipped in the country.
Yeah, that was the first teacher sort of scene we had, is him explaining this.
So this is like their final home. So they, so maybe it is.
Yeah. Are we watching more of this? Have we watched episode 2? I think it sounds like we are. It sounds like we are. It's only 6 episodes.
I mean, it's only 6 episodes.
Maybe we'll watch episode 2. I will watch episode 2.
We could have put this down on the schedule as well. We'll do episode 1, but not really expected.
We didn't expect.
The trailer looked a bit goofy, and we were like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious to see episode 2 now.
I want more crazy Thor stuff. If it just goes full into the goofy stuff and just all kind of dodgy effects and stuff, then we'll probably bow out after that. But if it can be fun, like this, and do the kind of the crazy fun stuff, then
some of the goofy stuff might work. I'm kind of into the 2 hot kids being like these like infiltrator like demons or whatever they are.
I want to figure out who exactly they are. I need to do some research.
Oh, I'm sure they are something. I'm sure they're specific.
I know the old man's Odin. I'm fairly sure he's Thor, and that the brother is presumably Loki. And even if they're not like, oh, he's actually Thor and Loki, they're the modern representation and incarnation of.
Oh, sure. I mean, if this is Odin, then or Thor's actual father wasn't Odin, then it was what, previous Thor? Possibly,
yeah. Which is why he had the hammer.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm kind of feeling like, because Ragnarok, the whole idea is that's the start and the end of a cycle. So, it's the apocalypse, but then the world is reborn and everything starts again until the next Ragnarok. That's kind of the whole idea. So the cycles are really built into Norse mythology. So I'm feeling that maybe the idea of, okay, well, there is a Thor in each generation, and this one happens to have the Loki there as well. It would kind of work.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is meant to be a limited series or a potential ongoing.
I'm not sure.
Because I could see it being like a self-contained story in which, okay, once Ragnarok's happened, we're in the new cycle, that's the end of the story and it's fine. But I could also see the ongoing adventures of teenage Thor. Like, I could totally see how that would work.
Yeah, I'd be down for it.
There's potential.
I'll just check to see if it's. I mean, there's people checking if there is a season 2, so they're not expecting it to be a limited series by the sounds of it.
Okay, cool. All right, well, we'll have a look at episode 2, not before we get the next Lost in Space done. Don't worry, we'll get that done and then jump to episode 2 of Ragnarok. But yes, okay, I guess we're going to try and squeeze in this this Ragnarok.
We got a couple of weeks before the next thing hits. Oh, we got 1 week.
Yeah, we got 1 week. I was going to say
1 week. Lock and Key is closer than I thought.
Yes, but yes.
Damn it, Netflix.
We'll have a look at more Ragnarok and see if it's worth continuing, because I was kind of into the ending of this. I'm not going to lie.
Do you know what's really bad is, like, I thought I might be into this because I'm a mark for mythology. You know, this is not new for long-term viewers of this channel. But I thought Pete might not be into this as much. This might be one of those cases. Yeah, so I'm a little bit surprised, but I mean, pleasantly surprised.
It's because it's more mixed into a normal everyday setting. I feel like if this was just like all like set in like mythical lands, I'd be bored to tears. But you put it in the context of a kid in a high school, and I'm suddenly more into it.
Yeah, I do hope it can clear up some of the clunkier elements and it's a bit rough around the edges because, like I said, I didn't like this as much as I wanted to. I wanted to love this when I realized what it was and what it was doing. And we're talking about all the fun bits, which is why I'm getting so into it. But there are like really just clunky elements while I'm watching it. I just hope they get smoothed out over the season.
Because treating mythology like this, like it's something of an old era that is mostly treated as a myth that never really happened, and no one really believes it anymore. And there's just this like fragment of like having to believe in it again. That stuff works with me. It's like what I always say I bring up with Star Wars is that the Jedi are far more interesting when they've been long dead, and that there's just the fragments and the little fragment left of what could be more Jedi. And the idea of like rekindling that, once you actually cut to like a Jedi council, I'm like, oh my god, this is so boring. I hate it all. And I stand by that, and I think this is why this is more interesting than just doing a show set in the peak of Thor and all that crap. And that's not a dig at the Marvel movies, because that's different again. That's its own.
That's a completely different take on Thor and the mythology in general.
Yeah, but hey, so that is episode 1 of Ragnarok. We will have a look at episode 2 in a few days' time, so look forward to that. Let us know what you thought of the first episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that jazz. Get us on the Twitters at @mailed_fuzz for channel updates. I mentioned Patreon earlier if you want to support us financially. You can also support us by rating us on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. What are you saying?
Make him watch Twilight.
Shut up. But that is us. Check out the Picard reviews that are happening right now with me and Tara. Me and Connor have been reviewing The Outsider from HBO, so there's a couple of interesting shows going on right now to talk about. So go and check out those reviews and anything else we do. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?